I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I love social media. I love scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Instagram, like looking at everyone's like Snapchat things. But at the same time, like that's where half of the drama starts.
Sometimes online is just like this fake image of people and you're like, is that really? Like I had a friend and like I love her to death, but today she's like, yeah, I took down my Instagram post. I'm like, you posted it 2 days ago. She's like, yeah, I don't know, just didn't get enough likes. Like sometimes stuff like that, it's like, well, you can't really trust somebody based on online because it switches like that. It's so like crazy.
I feel like social media is part of the reason why there's so much stress and anxiety.
I myself think of social media as like a gateway to bring yourself down. Like I understand social media can be used to like boost your online presence, you know, gain some popularity, gain a name for yourself in these days, but I try to stay away from it because if I see someone who's enjoying themselves way more than I am, I'm definitely gonna get down. I'm definitely gonna crack down on myself, say, why am I not enjoying myself? What am I supposed to do? How do I get my life like this?
It doesn't really affect me personally unless like, you know, there's someone on the other side who's being really like toxic. You know, that can stimulate some anger.
It's just, there's multiple different ways that it can be harmful.
You're given unrestricted internet access. Anyone with like an email account can just make their own social media account and they DM you, they talk to you directly, privately. You don't know what's going on in those conversations. You don't know who's doing what's exactly happening, so.
I could live without social media. Most of my friends are at school anyway. I don't really make online friends. I don't like online friends. Like, you don't have that in-person interaction. So I feel like I'd be perfectly fine. Most of my friends are at my school anyway, so I just see them all the days of the week.
Our attention spans are really short, so it's like these like max 3-minute videos. Like you never see a 3-minute TikTok, but it's like 15 seconds to a minute and you could just scroll and scroll. You see something you don't like, that's fine, scroll something else. And the app, like, there's an algorithm and it'll like shift according to what you're actually watching, which is like nice because then it keeps you interesting and it really hooks you in.
I think some parents overreact when it comes to, because all parents hear about is the bad stuff.
You don't need to be real famous already to get famous. It's not like YouTube where you have to start off, you know, like you'd have to start way back. On TikTok, you can just create an account, you know, maybe get in contact with some people, and if you have the money, you can sponsor your videos, which will then get more people to view them, and boom, you can make money off of this.
So I'm going to start with you, Kevin. How is social media impacting the hallways of our schools here in West Michigan?
Yeah, so I want to make a parallel to, you know, driving a car. Auto accidents are leading cause of death for teenagers, yet we still have kids driving cars, but how do we do it? You know, they get courses, they get training with an adult in the car for a permit, and then they can't have kids in the car at night as they, you know, ramp up to independence. But with a phone, we give kids a phone without any training, without any, you know, restrictions, and here you go and figure it out. And so how do we kind of use some of those parallels for what we know works, you know, such as a gradual release with social media, because the way that, you know, the apps are designed, or they're meant to target parts of the brain that get kids excited and that release dopamine, and so then there's this cycle to try to keep it going. And so how does that impact school as well? I'd say the overwhelming majority of it happens outside of school. It certainly pours its way inside of school, whether there's comments or whether there's you didn't like, or you shared something that you weren't supposed to, that was just between us, and it manifests itself in the relationships. You know, but again, the answer isn't take it away. The answer is, how do we help kids navigate, you know, when those things happen, and how do we, you know, promote positive behaviors? And let's be honest, adults, is our Facebook page, you know, like reality for us, you know, and so we expect different from our kids than what you guys see from your friends and neighbors. You know, I don't think that's the case. It's more of a symptom of our society that manifests itself in children. So again, it's about teaching and educating how we can use the tools that are a resource, but also when there's problems, how do we navigate that versus just have conflict or withdraw or then go into other coping mechanisms.
So Kaylee, how does it mess with our mind?
Absolutely. I think that social media is one of the biggest caveats to our self-esteem as we're growing up as youth. It can either help it when we're posting a picture and we get the feedback we desire, we're getting likes, we're getting comments, people are asking us questions, or it can really damage our self-esteem. We post a photo and we don't get enough likes. We see someone else posted within the same hour and they got a certain amount of likes or comments, and now you're changing your whole appearance to mimic what that person did to get those likes. I think also with social media, the hard part about it is we are creating this false reality. And so it's very easy for us to get lost in the sauce. We're just making up new things and we're hoping that people catch on and find that to be our new personality, and we're just lying to ourselves.
And how does it impact our behavior from what you've seen, Carrie?
Yeah, I think it normalizes a lot of things that they wouldn't otherwise see. So they're seeing kids drinking, they're seeing kids stealing medicine from medicine cabinets. You know, like it's normalizing everything. And so it's in their faces, it's constant. It's everybody else is doing this because this is all that I'm seeing. And so I think that, yeah, it's definitely always in kids' faces because they're on their phones all the time. And so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, if I could jump in terms of normalizing, I mean, I love Facebook in social media because they post everything, committing crimes. I mean, they're videotaping themselves, breaking into cars, and I'm like, yeah, all our great investigations are pulling cell phones and posts on media because they're putting everything out there, and they have no qualms about posting themselves with guns and everything like that. So in one sense, it's kind of great for us because it makes our crimes a lot easier to solve. But on the other hand, probably for you, I've seen a lot of cases where the stuff that maybe ended in school between two parties going back and forth are now carried over on the text fights or the social media posts going back and forth outside of school that leads to fights or who knows what coming back into school or leading down the road somewhere off campus.
Yeah. So coming back to school this fall, for some kids that hadn't been in school for a year and a half, and there has been lots of connection over social media. So there was some scores to settle last fall as kids came back, which wasn't healthy for us, but it does spill over. But at the same time, schools can't be the social media police for, I get calls at 9, 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, there's this concerning behavior. We can't take care of that. But one of the things that I do want us to think about is, things like entrepreneurship or things that we do value in our society. And, kids are monetizing their use of social media. And so it's in the teens of percentage of kids that are making money off of social media. The number I saw was 86% of kids want to, but about 15 to 20% are making money on it. So, it's, again, how can we look at a tool for the positive attributes that it may help a kid and try to mitigate some of the negative components?
I think, too, that social media gets a really bad rap, and that it can also have some beautiful aspects to it because students are able to be whoever they want to be on social media, and they don't have to hide behind like being judged out in the open, and so they can just present who they want to be, and it is what they are, and they're under a hashtag or a username, and that is a lot of freedom, and it can be really healing for students. But I think it also is on the flip side, they can hide behind it, and so it creates a lot of isolation, and it also allows space for bullying because their name isn't attached to it always. And so I think there's both good and bad to social media.
I really like that you added that, Carrie, because I think about social media as a tool through COVID right now, and just being able to have access to our support networks that were once taken away from us. We're having virtual meetings for groups or virtual therapy sessions, having more of that access to make us feel more normalized, and then that also then in turn helps our self-esteem. We're not feeling so isolated and alone in a pandemic that is already so lonely.
Yeah, so I think balance and healthy boundaries are key in terms of social media.
I want to pick up on a little something Kevin said. For the first time, if I go into a 5th grade classroom and we're just chatting and I'll say to students, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Used to be a huge array of things kids would say. 90% of the kids want to be YouTubers, gamers, or TikTokers, and that's who we want to be when we grow up. Dr. Lowery, is that a good thing to aspire to, a bad thing? I mean, you can make millions by posting stupid videos, and people love it.
Yeah, I think it's like everything. It's in what everything the panelists have said. It's a tool, and so if you're going to make millions of dollars, but you can't read the contract, then just like if you want to be a NBA ball player, but you can't read the contract, So I always say be smart about it, and I know some young people that have been very smart about it, and they're. There's a young man who's a basketball player, and he has like almost 2 million followers on TikTok. And so if his basketball career doesn't take off, he's kind of set. But that's a minority. And so also remember, what you post is there forever. So I like to have the conversation, okay, that's great, but what else are you gonna do with your life? And so I agree with everything the panelists said, but also just being safe about it and trying to know who you're engaging with. And so that's the biggest conversation I try to have with my patients.
And then Chris, what are you seeing as far as predators?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing in terms of predators. There are all kinds of people out there and that's the thing. We don't have a whole lot of things we can do from our office because they're off country. We just had a case right now that they're from China. They could trace it to an entity in China that were asking for naked photos for 11-year-old girls. So it becomes very difficult, and then going to, things are out there forever, but you've got to be able to educate your kids in terms of who you're posting to, what you're posting, and because you don't know, it could be the Chinese entity posed as like another 15-year-old girl, and they got, built that trust, built the relationship, and then started exchanging those photos, and that becomes the problem thing, is then, okay, it turns over to us. Well, whoever did it's in China, so that makes it very difficult. We can do stuff peer-to-peer. We're seeing a lot of that peer-to-peer stuff, and we have a juvenile sexting program where we kind of divert these kids, trying to get them, training on good social media practices and what's out there. So if it's locally and kids amongst kids, we can do something. But the scary thing is the outside entities we don't have a whole lot of control over.